The United States has ceased production of the U.S. cent. At least that's what we have been told by officials from the United States Mint and the Treasury Department. But there's more to this story than what is going to be stopping at the United States Mint. And I'm going to explain exactly what it is that's coming up next that is going to absolutely blow your mind. Let's talk about it as we explore. November the 12th, 2025 is an historic day because the United States Mint ended production of the penny, a change made to save money because the 1 cent coin that could once buy a snack or a piece of candy had become increasingly irrelevant, according to Channel 6 Action News out of Philadelphia. But they use the word penny incorrectly. It is actually called a cent. And I'm going to be referencing that word correctly because here in the United States, we don't have pennies. That is something that is strictly for other nations, especially the United Kingdom. And so the last cents were struck at the Mint in Philadelphia, where the country's smallest denomination coins have been produced since 1793, a year after Congress passed the Coinage Act, which happened on April 2nd of 1792. Officials said that the final few cents would be auctioned off, and that is the news here that is just pretty amazing because you can only imagine what they're going to go for and how many of those are what is considered a few. Be very interesting. I've heard the press conference on it, and I've heard the number 2 being used. If that's the case, they're going to be very, very expensive cents, that's for sure. But there's something else about those cents, the last few that are going to be auctioned off, that are quite intriguing. Yes, indeed. I'll tell you about that later in the video. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, you can save up your cents in order to buy precious metals. Our friends at Summit Metals, they have gold and silver, platinum, and they've got other collectibles as well. So check them out by clicking on the link down in the description below. God bless America, and we're going to save the taxpayers $56 million per year, U.S. Treasury Brandon Beach said just before hitting a button to strike the final cent. Cents remain legal tender, but new ones will no longer be made available. The last coin to be discontinued was a long time ago, back in 1857, and it was the half cent, according to Beach. President Donald Trump ordered the cent's demise as it cost climbed to nearly 4 cents per cent, or per penny, they say here, and the 1 cent valuation became somewhat obsolete. Billions of cents remain in circulation, but they are rarely essential for financial transactions in the 21st century economy. Of course, we have to wonder why that is, and it is precisely because of inflation of the dollar. And so, therefore, it costs almost 4 cents to produce one of these. And so, certainly, it's kind of like Gresham's Law because it's more likely probably people will save these cents. I know I have started saving the copper cents, and here's one right there, but let me show you another one that's even more brilliant here that I found in change. And it's right, 1973, San Francisco minted, not a proof, Lincoln cent here. Now, what's amazing about these coins here is that the copper ones, which are 95% copper and I think 5% zinc or other metals, well, if we weigh them on a scale, let's see what we have here. Let's see if we can get an idea of exactly how much they weigh when they are made of actual real metal. All the metals are real, the other ones, but it's just an enduring metal like copper, bronze. And as you can see, it's 3.1 grams here, but actually I think they're technically 3.2. This scale is not the best scale, but anyways, 3.1 grams compared to a copper-coated zinc, and it's 2.5 grams. So that's copper-coated zinc, which basically it's about 97% zinc, I think, and 3% copper, somewhere thereabouts for these newer cents. Of course, they've got the shield on the reverse of it, but nonetheless, that's what we're dealing with here. And I've seen some of these picked up from the ground that have been there for a while, and they literally do corrode away. They're eaten away by pressure and time. Yes, indeed. It's crazy. And the ground will, will literally eat away their value. It's crazy. But these here, you can bury them in the ground. They may get tarnished and but nonetheless, this 1959 cent will last. And it may pit a little bit, but it is indeed something of quite a value. 1959 being the first year that the memorial was used. The Lincoln Memorial was used on the cent here. Very, very nice. That would lasted up until 2008, and then in 2009 you had the Lincoln cent series. That was 4 cents that were created on the life of Lincoln throughout from his humble beginnings in a log cabin to the time when he was president, the presidency. So there that is. Pretty amazing. And then in 2010, you had the shield cent, which is actually not a bad design. It's probably more easier to see, and given the small size of it, it works out fairly good. But nonetheless, there is that. But the Lincoln, the face of Lincoln has been on these since 1909, the longest that there's been a portrait of anyone on any of our coins in history. And 300 billion of these things are out there, and there's more coins with Lincoln's effigy on it than any other living or dead person in world history. That tells you something. Anyways, the article continues. For far too long, the United States has minted cents, which literally cost us more than 2 cents, Trump wrote in an online post in February. This is so wasteful. Well, that's so passé. That's so long ago. Now they cost almost double that to produce. Still, many people have a nostalgia for them, seeing them as lucky or fun to collect, and some retailers voiced concerns in recent weeks as supplies ran low and the end of production drew near. They said the phase-out was abrupt and came with no government guidance on how to handle transactions. Some rounded prices down to avoid shortchanging shoppers. Others pleaded with customers to bring exact change. The more creative among them gave out prizes such as a free drink in exchange for a pile of pennies or cents. We have been advocating abolition of the penny for 30 years, but this is not the way we wanted it to go, Jeff Leonard of the National Association of Convenience Stores said last month. Some banks, meanwhile, began rationing supplies, a somewhat paradoxical result of the effort to address what many see as a glut of the coins. Over the last century, about half of the coins made at mints in Philadelphia and Denver have been cents. But they still have a better production cost-to-value ratio than the nickel, which costs nearly 14 cents to make. The diminutive dime, by comparison, costs less than 6 cents to produce, and the quarter is about 15 cents. Back in 1793, a penny could get you a biscuit, a candle, or a piece of candy. These days, many sit in drawers or glass jars and are basically set aside or collected. Well, look at there. It's kind of case in point here. I was able to just pull these out and show you. No matter their face value, collectors and historians consider them an important historic record that can be traced back for more than 200 years. Frank Holt, an emeritus professor at the University of Houston, who has studied the history of coins, laments the loss. We put mottos on them and self-identifiers, and we decide, in the case of the United States, which dead presidents are most important to us and should be commemorated, he said. They reflect our politics, our religion, our art, our sense of ourselves, our ideals, and our aspirations. But one thing they're not talking about in this piece is if it really is legal. In other words, we're suspending the penny or the cent in this case, but stopping the production thereof with these last few to go out to auction has me wondering. Because I think in order to actually stop the production of the penny, that would require an act of Congress, which from what I'm understanding has not been even proposed yet. So this suspension will last as long as the executive order lasts, and that could end at the next president, no matter the political party. They decide that they want to start producing cents again, they can, and it makes you wonder if these last of the cents that are produced, if they will indeed be sold for auction for a very good amount of money, if that would render them valueless. But my guess is probably not. Why? Because these last few cents are going to be put up for auction, which I think are going to be going to a special fund that the United States Mint is going to be setting up. well, those coins will have a special privy mark on them. And the privy mark, indeed, will be a right above the Liberty. It is going to be an omega sign. That's right, which means the last. You have the alpha, which is first, and then the omega, which is last. So that will be it. And actually, it's not going to be above it. It will be below the word Liberty, right there behind Lincoln's shoulder. It will have the omega sign on it and the year 2025. Now, there has also been some talk that they have started producing cents for 2026. Now, remember, 2026 is going to be a double-dated cent, according to renderings in the United States Mint and the CCAC. And that definitely will be something quite interesting to see how that plays out, because if they do produce those for circulation, if they've minted those for today and for circulation, there are going to be very, very few of them. And they will be in mint sets. By the way, they're still going to produce mint sets and proof sets with the cent in them. That will not stop. And so it could be that the last ones for circulation could be 2025, and that the double-dated for circulation Lincoln cents will not happen. And by the way, speaking of that, there's going to be a double-dated Silver Eagle as well, improved version, that will be released by the United States Mint as well. But very interesting indeed. What do you think of this story? And are you going to bid on the last Lincoln cent, which will be mostly zinc? Imagine that. I tell you what, I think honestly they should have made them in copper for the last few. At least they could have done. But it doesn't look like, from what I saw the pictures, that's going to be the case. So there you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.